Welcome to This Explainer, where we are diving headfirst into the unprecedented, frankly shocking collapse of the Italian national soccer team. If you follow international football at all, you know Italy isn't just a team, it's an absolute institution. But today we're not looking at their triumphs. We're rolling up our sleeves and performing an autopsy on a sporting empire that has completely fallen apart on the world stage.
Think about this stark, unbelievable number for a second. Three consecutive missed World Cups for a four-time global champion. For a nation where football isn't just a sport, but almost a religion, this number is a literal waking nightmare.
To really wrap your head around the sheer gravity of this, trace the timeline of this trauma. It started with missing the 2018 World Cup after a brutal playoff loss to Sweden. Then there was that disastrous 2022 defeat to North Macedonia, a game where Italy registered an absurd 32 shots to Macedonia's 4, but somehow still lost in the 92nd minute. And most recently, the 2026 penalty shootout heartbreak against Bosnia and Herzegovina, where they completely collapsed after going down to 10 men.
Let's get right into what the Italian media is actually calling the third apocalypse.
Just listen to the absolute despair from the players themselves. Leonardo Spinazzola's words perfectly capture the dark reality of an entire generation of elite Italian athletes completely missing the sport's biggest stage. I mean, imagine dedicating your entire life to representing your country, playing at the absolute highest club levels, and suddenly realizing you might finish your whole career without ever stepping onto a World Cup pitch.
And the reality is, this isn't just a run of bad luck. It is an impossible statistical anomaly for a footballing empire. Think about it. Out of the 8 total countries that have ever won a World Cup, Italy stands completely alone in failing to qualify 3 times in a row in the modern era. The system hasn't just stuttered a bit, it is entirely flatlined.
To figure out how we actually got here, we're going to look back at the ghosts of 2006.
We've to contrast this grim present with Italy's glorious past. Take legendary goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon. He went from feeling absolutely omnipotent and invincible during their 2006 World Cup triumph to experiencing the agonizingly helpless perspective of a distressed executive in 2026. He once said about the end of a career, "When your muscles, joints, and reflexes start to wear out, then it really is like dying." And in 2026, serving as the delegation chief, he had to sit on the sidelines and watch the national team he loves metaphorically die out there on that pitch in Bosnia.
Remember, we're talking about a man who once went 974 consecutive minutes without conceding a single goal in Serie A, anchoring a defense that was literally the envy of the entire world. Italy used to be a fortress. So how does a fortress crumble like this?
That brings us to our first structural cause of death, the tactical monoculture.
It all boils down to a massive clash. On one side, you have the rigid, hyper-structured 3-5-2 tactical monoculture that has completely overtaken Italian domestic leagues. On the other side, you have the fluid, creative, individual talent that used to define Italy's legendary past. Now, the 3-5-2 system isn't inherently bad, but when every single club team drills it relentlessly, it creates a massive trap. It makes the national team wildly predictable and incredibly easy to counter on the international stage. Italian teams now focus so heavily on functional, athletic wingbacks and positionally disciplined midfielders, they've essentially sacrificed flair for pure structure. The result? A total lack of tactical flexibility. So when an opponent studies the tape and neutralizes their shape, the Italian squad lacks the ability to adapt mid-game. They're stuck.
Which leads directly to the next massive issue, the missing creative spark.
You really have to ask yourself, where are the Roberto Baggios, the Alessandro Del Pieros, or the Francesco Tottis of today? As Buffon himself noted, globalization has leveled the playing field, sure, but more importantly, Italy entirely stopped producing those creative number 10 players who can magically unlock a tight defense. When a World Cup qualifier gets incredibly gritty and locked down, you need a player who can pull a rabbit out of a hat. Right now, Italy's hat is completely empty.
So why aren't they producing these magicians anymore? We have to examine the broken youth pipeline.
Let's dive into this super fascinating concept called the relative age effect. It explains a systemic, massive flaw in how Italian youth soccer currently evaluates its talent. Essentially, it's a selection bias. Coaches are picking kids born early in the selection year purely because they happen to be slightly more physically mature. These kids are just bigger and faster at age 10 or 12, so they get more practice time, better coaching, and way more opportunities.
The skew in the Italian youth national teams is absolutely staggering. Kids born in the first quarter of the year make up over 41% of the rosters. Meanwhile, the late bloomers, born in quarter 4, they're barely represented at just 10.8%. The system is completely confusing early physical puberty with actual long-term soccer talent.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Consider this exact odds ratio of 4.31.
Academic studies on Italian soccer show that the so-called underdog quarter-four players, the ones who actually survive these brutal youth cuts, are up to 4.31 times more likely to make the senior national team. Why? Because to survive against those bigger kids, they had to develop vastly superior technical and tactical skills. The academic research backs this up completely. The youth system is quite literally discarding highly technical, gifted late bloomers in favor of early maturing kids. Think about the terrible irony here. By weeding out the smaller, more creative players at age 12, Italy is literally robbing its own senior team of its best long-term talent.
And it only gets worse at the club level. Serie A clubs prioritize buying cheap, proven foreign talent over playing their own domestic youth. This means Italian youth are completely blocked from getting critical first-team minutes. Those brilliant late bloomers we just talked about, they get stuck down in the lower Serie B leagues, or they just waste away on the bench. Clubs are prioritizing short-term financial efficiency, but by doing that, they are completely destroying the national team's development. Players simply aren't getting the high-stakes repetitions they need to perform in a crunch-time World Cup qualifier.
Finally, we arrive at the ultimate cause of death, a system fiercely resisting change. The Italian Football Federation, or FIGC, operates in a constant, maddening cycle of inaction. It goes like this. First, a massive national crisis occurs, like, say, missing a World Cup. Second, they bring in beloved legends like Gianluigi Buffon to calm the public and add some quick credibility. Third, minor youth reforms are announced with huge fanfare. And fourth, the political machinery quietly kicks back in, blocking genuine, deep reform just to preserve their own institutional power.
So the crucial takeaway here is that despite missing the World Cup in 2018, 2022, and now 2026 under FIGC President Gabriella Gravina, there have been absolutely no mass resignations, just a stubborn, unyielding insistence on continuity. They continue to call it bad luck or fine margins, like a missed penalty or a red card, rather than addressing the deep rot at the foundation of the sport. Which leaves us with one pretty haunting question to ponder as we look at the ruins of Italian soccer's empire. When a four-time champion fails to qualify for the biggest tournament on earth for 12 straight years, is it really just a series of unfortunate events, or is it a broken system working exactly as it's designed to? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I hope this gave you a clear lens into the spectacular collapse of the Azzurri. Keep questioning the systems behind the scores.